Okay, now I'm to the point on the sculpture where I'm going to begin doing some removing the armature on the inside and doing some more carving basically to thin out the clay so that way we have a much lighter sculpture. It's still well supported. I'm going to do a lot of the detailing afterwards, so I'm going to put in kind of the color of the clothing I was wearing and all the hair and everything like that. We'll do that after we hollow the sculpture out. So first off, you want to remove the sculpture from the armature base. So you'll flip it on its side, and you may need to have a friend help you with this. You want to pull this armature out from the underside. Then you're going to want to remove as much of the newspaper as you can from the bottom. The underside here, you want to make sure that you've got a good, well compressed base that your sculpture is going to sit on. So what I'm doing now is I'm just blending in any cracks that I see on the sculpture, because I want that clay to be really strong when I flip this over. Any clay that's thicker than your thumb needs to be hollowed out. So the areas that are a lot thicker, I can take a loop tool and carve some of that clay away. It seems like it's pretty well supported on the bottom part. So now what I need to do is hollow out the inner part of the head. So what you'll do is you'll take a wire tool and you decide where you want to cut. We're going to disguise this underneath hair, so I suggest that you don't do it too far down on your forehead of your sculpture. And I'm just going to cut down and over. You might come across some newspaper. Set that to the side. So then from the inside of the sculpture, you'll notice that there's still newspaper to remove, and there's also a lot of thickness to the clay. So I'm going to want to thin that out so that way the sculpture can make it through the kiln firing process. As you're carving, you want to be careful about not carving too much. So in this area, I can just feel from the outside of the sculpture where the eye is. And I just want to make sure that I don't carve into the eye, so that way I've got a big hole in my project. But any of these thicker areas, you can just feel with your hand how much clay you have left and how thin it should be. So no more than your thumb's thickness, so about an inch. So after you've carved enough of the clay to thin it out, you want to go back into the inside and do one last little blend just to make sure that there aren't pockets for air. So again, we're pressing the clay and smoothing it out on the inside just to make sure there's no gaps within the project before we put it back together again. If it seems like there's some spots that are a little bit too weak, down in here I added a little more clay and blended it in. So you may find there are some spots that you need to do that too, just to make sure the sculpture is strong enough, especially along the neck, because you may have been doing a lot of blending and moving around in the neck area. So now I've hollowed out the inside all to no more than a thumb's thickness. I've done that for the piece that I was going to attach. If your project ended up like mine, where I was off a little bit on the height, so I had the post come through the top, you'll want to fill that in as well. So the next stage is to score, slip, seal this all back together again.